But our guest is Ugas Mohamed. He's the chair for the Capital Markets Authority. And this hour will be when drought hits the market. And it's both markets, like we said. It's the trade capital markets, the actual market.
The macro market and the micro market.
Yes, I like that. The macro and the micro. Good morning, Ugas.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana. Before anything else, Janet is usually here. She'll usually share a quote with us, and then you can interpret it, see if it speaks to you or not. But I'll do it on her behalf, Leo. All right. So today's quote comes from someone who was the former president of the African Development Bank. His name is Akinwumi Adesina. He said, "If young people are not included in economic growth, they will reject the system entirely." If young people are not included in economic growth, they will reject the system entirely.
Well, that is so true, no doubt. I mean, we are dealing with a youth bulge.
Yes.
We're dealing with unemployment at the bottom. And therefore, I was listening to the segment on crime, and I tie that in.
Very true.
Because of the fact that really those are existential issues for the country to deal with. And that is actually, everybody is scratching their head on how to tackle that issue. Yeah.
Do young people participate in the capital markets?
Well, this is also a challenge for us, but at the same time, it's a serious opportunity. Retail investors, especially young Kenyans, who are now probably more in gambling than the capital markets, and in terms of betting and other shortcut. Of course, I don't want to hit the betting industry, but that's what we're trying to do. And you've heard of the ZD Trader system, which is the M-Pesa platformed system to give access to young people to invest. And also we've done quite a bit. We've reduced even the lot sizes of shares so that you can actually you can trade one share, 3 shillings, 2 shillings. We're making quite a bit of reforms in that sector, even to remove some of the taxes and stuff, so that we make it cheaper and easier and accessible and affordable. Yes.
And then you'll get there.
And hopefully we can incentivize the young people to actually own these companies in some ways. Yes.
Because, people like yourself, who is the chair of the Capital Markets Authority, or even the chair of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the cabinet secretary for the National Treasury, economists at top level and advisories in government, say that we have stabilized the economy at a macro level. We have stabilized the economy, and now the benefits are coming and trickling down to the mwananchi. But as we speak today, close to 4 million Kenyans are facing acute food shortage. And if you look at their economic activity, it's being severely affected. It's agriculture-based, livestock-based. No rain means no pasture for their livestock, no water for their livestock, no food for them, right? Now, if you went to those people and told them, we have stabilized the economy, we have done very well to change the situation, and you remind them 3 years ago when there was another severe drought, would they see a difference?
Good question. The issue of macroeconomics takes time. You may stabilize the markets, you may stabilize the economy at a macro level, but for them to trickle down to common mwananchi may take time. So first of all, that's a basic principle of economics. So today when the minister or the CS for Treasury tells you, or any other in that sector, any other leader in that sector tells you that we've stabilized the economy, it is true. Both are true. The economy is in the right direction. Certain things have been stabilized over the last 3 years. But at the same time, we have droughts, we have economic activity that's dwindling, and therefore the two are both true, and therefore is a question of what's the interlink between the two, and how do we make sure that we create inclusion. It's a question of inclusion, right? So it's first identifying the problem, and once you identify the problem, what do you need to do in order to, especially the arid lands? That's where the problem is. Yes. And I think it is a long story. I know there's been too many things being talked about the arid lands, lack of leadership, all kind of things. Yep. But the bottom line is there is an issue, and it requires a solution, a concerted solution. It is not for the certain group of people. It's not. It is for everybody. It's from the top to the bottom to actually address a major part of this country that is having cyclical droughts, and it will take interventions, both in terms of education, in terms of investment, in terms of new paradigm shift.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we even get to matters capital markets, just to stick on that, because we've talked about the drought situation. Like you've said, we've talked about the ASAL areas of this country. In your opinion, what are untapped, whether it's, let me call them resources, right, from that side that could essentially help people, live dignified lives, that you don't need the support or support or always begging or just a dignified life and being able to provide sustainably for themselves?
I think the most important thing is to first understand that area. I don't think Kenyans understand that area.
Sure.
Majority of the policymakers have never slept a night or two in that area.
True.
Once you understand the dynamics there, you make policies that make sense. If you have never done that, you've never traveled on those roads, you've never, spent some time there, the best you've done is maybe attended a baraza there and spoke to leaders. I mean, you have no clue in most cases. So that's the biggest challenge first. I think Kenyans need to be educated on the ASALs quite a bit. And I'm talking about Kenyans policymakers. And of course, common Kenyans as well, because, it's an age of social media.
It is.
And I see all kind of, rumors and innuendos and flying around.
Yes.
So if you ask me the question of what kind of interventions will make a difference in that area, quite a bit. First of all, it is a disadvantaged area because of the climate, because of the weather, because of lack of water. So that's number one. It's vast. Number two, there's historical marginalization. People don't want to hear this, but we'll repeat. There's historical marginalization, and this is true. We're not making it up. It is a fact. Let me tell you, up to the 90s, late 90s, the Indemnity Act was in operations in the northern Kenya.
What's
in
that?
The NFD. The Indemnity Act allowed, it was more like a closed security zone. Okay? What does that do? It is no longer mainstream part of Kenya. Basically, it is insecure, it is inhospitable, it does not get development, it is, does not produce anything, and so forth. So anyway, so there were issues, historical. When I talk about historical, I can say quite a bit about that. And, so what kind of investments, what kind of, the number one is these are livestock people. These are nomads. So we have to stabilize that economy of the nomadic way of life or the livestock way of life.
Right.
It has to get some serious attention. A Marshall Plan, if I may say.
A Marshall Plan.
Something serious. We're not talking about, small things to appease here and
An
there.
intervention here and there.
No, that doesn't work. We have to actually focus on that area. And we have failed, actually. Even after devolution, we've looked at the agriculture sector quite a bit, giving them, all kind of incentives here and there to stabilize, this and that, coffee sector, tea sector, this and that. But unfortunately, the livestock sector has never been a priority.
True.
Recently, a development board was formed and is still seeking funding here and there just to even survive. I mean, of course, I'm part of government. I understand the collective responsibility and everything. But at the same time, I really would not like to see what you just said. Like, why does this all become so predictable?
Right.
Why? That's the big question. Why is it so predictable? Why is it recurring? So this is the big question we all need to answer. So investment in the livestock sector, acknowledging historical marginalization, which now requires accelerated development, specific attention.
Yes.
Those are the things that need to be put in place. Yes, of course, there are other internal, I'm talking at the macro level.
Yes.
Things we can talk about. Yes, we dig deeper into the details.
You know, I like what you're saying, an approach, an intervention that is long-term and well thought out and comes into a strategic plan that's being implemented. Now, many leaders have said the same thing. You know, there are many sons and daughters of the asal lands of this country who have risen to levels of government, who have come and said, you know, the government needs to do this and the other. I wonder why it's not done. Because, I mean, you can't tell me that we have not had an understanding at government policy-making offices. You know, the policy-making offices are from director level upward, downwards in state departments, and then it goes up into the principal secretary, into the cabinet secretary, to the cabinet, to the presidency, and to the political wing of it. So at government bureaucracy level, I am sure there have been conversations around what needs to be done for the ASALs. All right? And I'm sure you have been in government and at senior level, so I'm sure you've interacted with some things.
Absolutely.
So why doesn't it go up to political level, to political implementation?
I will say goodwill at the top.
Whose goodwill?
At the top. It requires a whole government approach. It's not going to a department and talking to them to solve a problem. The problems are so big, you cannot be solved by Department A or B or C. Even to a point where Kibaki's government formed a whole ministry for it.
Yeah.
True.
But it depends on how you empower that ministry. What do you do with it? Yes, you know, there are cosmetic things you do for, you know, for the optics, but yet are not fundamental. This is the biggest problem. We get too many optics, and I know you are alluding to the same at some point. You know, I'm not here to...
It's flagging off or cars or full of donations,
well,
things like that.
Well, I will not, you know, go to that level. You know, that one is a very miniature issue.
Yeah.
But at the big level, sometimes, yes, we may form ministries, departments, but how you empower them and what you do with it requires the tone at the top. Okay? And that is where the problem is. And I agree. We've been singing the song for some time, that there are problems where we come from. It takes time to get to the level we need to. But at the same time, really, I go back to the issues. Do people understand Northern Kenya? Those ones at the top, understanding the issues, the peculiarities of Northern Kenya, or for that matter, the ASALs. And you know, it requires major investments, really. It requires focus. And that is the biggest challenge we have. The biggest thing is, yes, you may get a borehole here. You may get a Maram Road somewhere. You may get a small power station somewhere. You know, let me ask you this. Anywhere in the world which is not connected to any grid, you know, the water grid, the power grid, the ICT grid, you know, talk about the road grid, everything. And then you're wondering, why don't you perform? If basically I'm not even alive, I'm barely functioning. And one thing you ask me, what are the challenges? One of the challenges is illiteracy also. You know, I always say, when, let's say, Nyeri County or Muranga County has a 70% literacy, Wajir County has 70% illiteracy. What causes illiteracy, if I ask you?
No schools.
It is governmental function over time. Over time.
Yeah.
I'm a first generation schooler myself, meaning my forefathers, all of them from where I am down, up or down, whatever it is, beyond.
Before
me. Have never been to school and I don't know how to read and write. How do you include them in the discussions?
Very true.
Yeah. This is where the problem is. Yes.
Ugas, if you don't mind, can you tell us your own story?
Yes.
So, Ugas Mohamed.
Yes.
You are, right now, you are at top level in government. You're a chair of the Capital Markets Authority. You've been on the board of the ICT Authority. You are educated abroad. But let's start from where you grew up and where you got educated. As the first person to be taken to school from your family.
Yeah.
You know, let me just say this and then I will answer that question. You know, if you ask anybody, a nomad, how did you go to school? He'll have an interesting story to say. It's amazing. It's just unbelievable how people have gone to school. I am one of those people that droughts brought them to school.
Drought brought you to school?
Yes. So that's why I'm talking about droughts. because I know what the pains people are going through. So if you ask me, if I answer the question regarding my personal life, yes, I went to school in Wajir, primary school in Wajir, secondary school in Wajir High School, University, Kenyatta University.
You know, when you say Wajir, people just assume Wajir is Wajir.
So yes, I started from Wajir Township. I went to Wajir full primary school. Then I went to completed from a place called Tarbaj, which is now a constituency. Then I came to Wajir High School for high schooling. I was admitted to the university in 1991. I think Mariam was born around that time.
Songa mbele kidogo. Or is it nyuma mbele? Yeah.
So then in Kenya, I got a green card to the US in 1995. Went there, started work with Microsoft. Okay, I did, the first I always say I launched Windows 95. It makes me a dinosaur.
No, not a dinosaur, more of, what's the word? An icon. Yeah.
A dinosaur just means something so old, right? So worked through corporate, went to university there again, did undergraduate in information technology. Worked in the IT sector in the boom of 90s and 2000s. Made something of it. Invested in the markets and, Wall Street and all that. Then I worked for Verizon Telecom for 10 years, from an engineer to project manager to a senior project manager to various levels of leadership. Came back in 2012, ran for MP, Tarbaj, where I came from. Didn't make it. But since then, I formed some NGOs when I was in the US. I was active in civil rights in the US, board member of Council for American Islamic Relations, chapter, the Texas chapter. Also part of the ACLU, the movement itself. So I was very active. When I was here, I was also working when I was at university with another NGO here, the Kuwaiti NGO. Formed an NGO, which I'm part of even now as a founder. In fact, I'm going to Wajir to do some work this weekend. So I came back, I ran for that, joined the private sector in the ICT sector, the fintech sector. I have quite a bit of experience in the fintech industry, meaning, cross-border payments, and now virtual assets and this kind of things. And I was in the ICT board, which oversaw this IFMIS and, these driving licenses. You see the passport systems, the backbone fiber. I remember we used to deal with issues of accessibility and affordability of internet at that time. And now those are solved problems. That's why I see the promise of Kenya sometimes.
Yeah, true.
Sometimes we may say all the negative things, but there's a lot of things that are changing.
True.
Right? Anybody who's been outside the country and comes back knows what we are talking about. But most of the time, when you stay inside, you may not realize the change.
You don't see the change.
You don't see the change. It's slow.
Yeah,
it's
too
slow.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. And I think that first bit of drought took you to school is something we can get into, because that's what we're discussing.
Yes.
What's happening to these 4 million Kenyans who are facing right now acute food shortage? What's happening to the children? Children actually going to school at this, or are they dropping out of school? What should we then say as a big strategic focus for the northeastern Kenya and for the ASAL regions of this country, so they don't have to go through these cycles all the time? Ugas Mohamed is the chairperson of the Capital Markets Authority, but as he said, he is a son of Kenya who has faced the vagaries of drought, and he's here because we're talking about when drought meets and hits the market. We'll be back shortly after this. It's 29 minutes after 7. Some questions and comments coming in, and this one is Taki Mapepe saying the solution for drought in ASALs is not complicated. Just have a plan for the pastoralists, market for their livestock, education to embrace agriculture, harvest water, right? Then there are, of course, people who are saying sisi ndio Sifuna na tuko hapa tunajingojea. Tunajingojea sisi ndio Sifuna.
Wanangojea nini?
Sifuna is coming at 8.
Oh.
Sisi ndio Sifuna tunajingojea. It's okay. Endeleeni tu kujingojea mkiwa hapo.
Right.
Tutakuwa na nyinyi shortly. Right now we have Ugas Mohamed, chairperson of the Capital Markets Authority, a son of Wajir, and he's here. He's talking about, drought as we see it, and the solutions to drought in this country need to not just be, short-term start-stop measures, but properly structured long-term measures. You're telling us about your own experience of going to schools because drought took you to school. We have seen these stories that the Daily Nation and NTV, we've been running stories that are actually showing children dropping out of school because of drought, right? School feeding program not working as it should, or families now moving because they are going to look for pasture, and so they're moving with the children, and children dropping out of school. But I can imagine the other thing was for you, food brought you to school. Am I right? Or how did drought bring you?
Well,
how did drought take you to school?
The issue of food is also pertinent. This is true, but not maybe in my particular case. But generally, it's a true statement.
Right.
Where there's a lot of hunger and people lose all their livestock, what they do is they become refugees, internal displaced people. And when they become that, then you have no choice, because there's feeding programs used to be in those good old days.
Yes.
Then you go to boarding schools, you go to feeding, and so forth. But my particular case is just similar. When it gets tough, you can't move anymore. You can't do anything. You're a young kid, and we came to town for survival, in order to survive, because it was not tenable. There was nothing to look after outside. A 7-year-old, 8-year-old. Just basically, we said enough is enough in our own minds, in our own little ways.
Right.
And then we came to town, and by the plan of God, we happened to be, the idea of schooling was an afterthought. It was a consequence.
To keep your children busy.
Yes.
You went to school.
Yes. So, let me tell you, the challenges were so great. Much better now, because at least there is communication.
Right.
Now, in the past, there was no communication. I remember when I was in the US, we formed the first radio station. That is this one here. It is actually operating in northern Kenya, but it is based in Isli, Star FM. That's the first radio station. Actually, we invested in it. Let me tell you. And the reason we did is because we wanted to open up the frontier. Okay? And they came for fundraising. And so we gathered as the professionals from northern Kenya who were there to raise money and invest in this radio station so that people can talk about markets for the livestock, can talk about weather and conditions of movement of nomadic communities, security issues, health issues where you want to communicate, certain information to communities. Let me tell you, the Wajir County is 56,000 square kilometers, just Wajir County. Marsabit is probably even bigger, right? Garissa is close to that. Mandera is close to that. And that forms almost half of Kenya, isn't it?
Right.
And Turkana. Just imagine if there's no way to reach nomads. How do you even tell them anything?
Difficult.
How does government reach them today?
It is still, at least now they have chiefs and their phones.
Right.
Majority. And still, by the way, it's not 100% covered. When I was in the ICT, we used to talk about the Universal Service Fund to cover marginalized areas with network, which still is going on from levies from the mobile operators. So at least now there is communication. Today, if you are in trouble, you can actually call. Before, there was nothing like this. There are at least borders or some motorcycles or something you run and you go and report something. Before, they were not there. The roads nowadays, once in a while, maybe they are, slightly paved, one way or the other, slightly. Let me put it that way. They were not there.
Yeah.
So, you can just imagine what life looked like. And now maybe we'll come to the issue of devolution and how much what has it done.
Yep.
But the point is, we've come to schools, and as I was telling you offline, that majority of the professionals from northern Kenya have come to school in very difficult circumstances, forced circumstances. I'm one of them. In fact, the ones before me, if the stories they tell you, I always tell them, you know, I wish people knew what this looks like. Can you write a book? Can you do something with it?
Yeah.
It's amazing. You know, a friend of mine was telling me, this is one of the funny ones. You know, in northern Kenya, you are nomadic. So you move. Today you're settled here, you stay for 1 month, then you pick up your things. There's no pasture anymore for the livestock, so you go somewhere else. So one day he treks to school 8 kilometers away. So in the evening when he comes back, there's no one there.
They've gone.
They've gone.
And he has no phone to call them.
He has nothing.
There's no way to find them.
And you're a 7, 8 year old. What do you do?
I don't know. What do
this,
you do?
This is the story of existence.
Yeah. This is the way of life.
Yes.
Many of you from this region, you know this as your way of life. And you said, among the things that happen in the northeastern Kenya and the northern Kenya, there is the climatic disadvantage, okay, because of how the climatic conditions are. It's vast. It's not just a small area. It's many thousands of square kilometers. And then there's a historical, economic, and political injustices. Now, those ones are big, because those ones, correcting them also would be a very big statement of justice to the people of the North. I asked you whether it's the government bureaucracy that doesn't understand. You said, no, government bureaucracy to some level understands these things. They've come up with, strategies and formulas and discussions. It's a political goodwill of it. Political goodwill because political leadership, a majority, does not come from this region. But then there's political leadership that comes from this region, right? And not just political in terms of elected, people like yourself who come from this region, who are in senior positions where they can raise a voice about the issues. Has enough been done by those who come from these marginalized areas to actually sensitize the rest of Kenya that this is it? That we are not just crying victim, we are victims. And we are not just crying victim and asking for benevolence. This is what ought to happen. And there's a plan for it that we have. This is what we are championing that ought to happen. Is there something like that?
As I said earlier, I think there are shortcomings. In general, government policy, for example, we've always heard about the sessional paper 10 of 1965. I'm sure everybody keeps singing that one.
Yeah.
Which basically said that investments should be put in productive areas of the economy. So you've basically relegated this one to non-productive already, you've pretty much.
Yeah.
So that has been an issue, that has been an obstacle. But, in general sense, if I was to answer that question in summary, a lot could have been done differently. And even today, one of the things is the coherence in the voices that's coming from the North. How coherent is it? For example, are we speaking the same language generally? I think there's a bit of weaknesses there. But it's not that we have not spoken about these issues. Over the 60 years.
It's pockets here, there, which, like you're saying, if it was more concerted, would have made much more of
totally agree. And that's where the problem is.
Okay.
I see consistency and also coherence and unification of purpose on the big issues.
Right.
Could have been done much better. And let me tell you, let me just give you why that's not happening too.
Okay.
The reason that's not happening is the challenges are so big that most of the leaders, I don't want to give them, brief for them, but most of the times you're dealing with firefighting. The challenges, today, because of the drought, and this is every 2 years, right? Because of this situation we find ourselves in, because of insecurity, because of this and that, most of the times you're firefighting. Your resources are consumed. Your mind is consumed. You are always firefighting about something because the needs are so much. So, for example, if the area is not opened up, it will become insecure. You have to know the causal relationships of one to the other. So if you don't open up that area through the grids, as I said, then you know what? It becomes a safe harbor for criminals because how many police stations exist in northern Kenya compared to the rest of Kenya? I mean, we are talking about, in terms of per square kilometer size, we are talking about just nothing almost.
Let's think through.
Now, let me just, I think the issue...
As you finish that, okay, finish the thought.
No, I just want to say, the Northern Kenya leadership over the years, of course, they have changed also themselves, you know, and of course, devolution has happened to a certain extent as well.
Yeah.
But I think the education of the leadership at the top on the issues has been wanting. There's more that needs to be done because, you know, if you don't understand something, you will not respond to it the way required. And I was talking about scale. I'm not talking about, you know, small stuff. You know, and if I tell you, oh, you know, I need a small road in my place, I need a borehole here. No, that's not what I want. And that's why for the first time, we're talking about the connection to the road network. We're talking about connection to the power grid. We're talking about connection to the aviation system. You know, everywhere. So you know, there are things that are moving. There are positive things. Let me tell you. You ask me, when are we going to get out of this cyclical problem?
Right.
The way of life is dying, and with climate change, we need to talk about climate change quite a bit.
Actually, we do. But I was going to say, how do we hold fort for the people of Northern Kenya as leaders, as representatives, without using them as political pawns?
You're saying that the citizenry in Northern Kenya is being used as pawns, political pawns.
You know how when people come to a negotiating table, it's these are my people, they want this and this and that, right?
Yes.
And then oftentimes it becomes not a case of, oh, do I want better for the people of Northern Kenya? It's what can I give them so that they give me a vote?
But is that not the whole of Kenya?
True.
Is that peculiar to Northern Kenya?
No, it's not peculiar.
So why the difference then?
The difference would be in how far back, how much room, how much headway like Northern Kenya has to make compared to the rest of Kenya. So it can't be...
others could survive on tokens.
Yeah. For Northern Kenya, it can't be too
I agree, and that's why I talked about, you know, serious strategic shift, paradigm shift for the leadership and for all of us. You know, the local leadership plus the national leadership. To, you know, if you really want to fix this problem, there's a way out. You need to invest in various ways in order to actually make the impact that's required. If you don't do that, you will be having this situation. But is it yielding the political outcomes that you are alluding to? That is the big question also. I think there's a lot of incoherence even in terms of politics in the North, you know, and therefore it is not yielding what it is purported to yield.
Okay.
You know, the reality is for that kind of economic investment to go to the North, that is a political decision. And it'll have serious political conversations across the country. It has started. 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, 1 kilometer, 1 vote. I mean, it's there. That is the basis of that conversation.
Yeah.
It's whether marginalization actually exists. Even the issue of the equalization fund was saying that we can't just say that it's only the North that's marginalized. There are some parts of Nairobi that are also marginalized. So when you talk about equalization fund, let's also look at the marginalized areas of
each county.
Yes. And spread it across. It's a political issue.
Yes.
There are some questions, for example, in the recent past that have come up, asking how much money has actually gone into this area since the 2010 Constitution. Because we accepted that we've got to uplift all of us on paper, and we have to develop all parts of this country. So there's money that has gone through devolution, through the national government projects, into northeastern Kenya. And the question has been, has that money gone to find people like Ugas who are educated, who can see the money and can see how they can play around with the money and come and invest in Nairobi and not actually ensure there's development in their home regions so that their home regions remain like that and they continue getting the votes, right? You understand the question I'm asking?
Absolutely.
Has the money that has gone into northeastern Kenya in the last 13 years been spent prudently?
The issue of spending money prudently can be seen in various ways, right? One way is, you know, how much corruption has happened and it has gone to people's pockets. That's one part of looking at it. The other part is, has priorities been right, even on the ground?
Yeah.
The other part is, for example, our society, the unemployment rate, if Nairobi unemployment rate is, let's say, 20% or 15, whatever the number is, over there is 30, 40, 50%. So the question is, the governors, the subsequent governors, each of them have been employing more and more people, which means the money has already been consumed through employment. Okay? So, for example, the wage bill of Wajir County is 60% of whatever gets in there, example. By the way, I was a governor candidate in last session. So just, I know a few
For
things
context.
about it.
Yeah,
for
for context.
And somebody may feel that maybe
You're making up numbers.
I'm making up numbers. So that in itself is already a problem. Because where has money gone? If you say, so if you ask me what's my assessment
Right.
of how money is being used, first of all, the hullabaloo about people bringing money back and building here and there, I don't buy that.
Right.
I sincerely don't buy that. And the reason simply is that is magnifying something that is not as significant into something. You delegitimize
Right.
what I'm trying to do. You delegitimize private enterprise to a point where now all of a sudden everything is suspect. Okay?
Yeah.
Today, if I go do some business, I make a deal, I do something, and I build something, all of a sudden I stole it from somewhere. Whether it's from Minnesota, or whether it is from pirates,
Yeah.
or whether it is from some NGO somewhere, or whether it's from county government.
Yeah. There's always something.
And let's be honest, in this country, a lot of people have become rich through government stuff. Just actually not isolated anywhere.
Yeah.
So coming back to the question, and the question you asked me was, is the money being used prudently? If you ask me that
Since
question,
devolution.
I see priority areas that I will not agree with myself. So for example, I see a lot of hardware. I don't see software, for example.
Okay.
You build a building, operating the building requires money.
Yep.
And by the way, governments are very good at CapEx, but not OpEx.
Brick and mortar.
Yes, okay, operating.
Yeah.
So you will see health centers. And then the fact that our geographical setup is so wide, so big, and so many little settlements, and part of the misbehavior I see on the ground is there are too many settlements, which means if I build a dispensary here and build a dispensary here and build this, just to put drugs in that dispensary,
Right.
stretches you to the limit.
Yeah.
The health sector in Wajir consumes almost 35% of the budget. But yet, the deficiencies are glaring. The problems are still there.
Right.
Why? Because of the setup, our geographical setup, the way we are. To maintain those things is tough. To protect,
Is there a fix for that? Because the geography
it
will
requires
change.
more.
The geography
No, let me
will
tell you this.
change.
Two things are supposed to happen. One is we need to change the behavior of settlements so that we congregate in one big areas, which is one of the things like I would like to see.
Right.
So we would like to see bigger towns with good water, good schooling, good health care, all those, developmental aspects
Right.
taken care of, planning and all that. Instead of having villages that each one of them are dying on their own and nothing is happening.
Okay. Yeah.
You cannot create development with stretched,
Resources.
Yeah.
Fair.
And part of it is that. But I think the whole thing is exaggerated in my view. I think we have problems, but this issue that somehow Northern Kenyan leaders are more corrupt than the rest of Kenyans, I think is just, I feel it is a bit of a, I don't like you kind of thing. Yes.
So what should be done? So we should not look at Northern Kenyan leaders and expect more of them because to them much is not given. So what should we do? Because I'm just sitting here and I'm still at that point where I'm wondering.
What shall we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, you're here yourself.
Yes.
The current 3 governors of the northeastern parts of this country have a story similar to yours.
Yes.
Even if we stretch and cross over into Isiolo,
Yes, and
into Marsabit,
and Turkana.
into Turkana,
Yes.
even Tana River,
Sana
we will
Buru.
find
Yes.
these are similar stories,
Right.
right? And yet we keep hearing the leaders saying, don't look at us, don't ask questions of us. So whom should we ask the questions?
Right.
No, you have to ask questions. No one can tell you don't ask questions. First of all, I think, that one, you're in a political setup, and the decision you're making are political, and therefore the questions must be there. We ask them questions ourselves. So we don't stop asking questions. In fact, even on the response to this drought, the way they respond to these issues, and then even planning for these droughts. How do you plan for droughts? Droughts are, what do we say, a supernatural, godly act, because rain comes from God. But mitigation and adaptation is human.
Very much within our reach.
Exactly. What are we doing? So there are, of course, gaps. Let me put it that way. I'm not here to, to whitewash that part of it.
Right.
Of the responsibilities of leadership. But at the same time, I want to emphasize that the problem is bigger than what can be managed on the ground.
Right.
It requires massive, what we call tunnel vision into it. You have to actually light a torch and just stay with it. It requires consistency. It requires, it requires actually, a Marshall Plan. I think the word I want to use is a Marshall Plan.
Yes.
It requires actually, stop the noise. Let's actually tunnel vision on these issues. What works? Bring economists on the table.
Yeah.
Bring local leadership on the table. Bring, and create a roadmap for. And by the way, a few things are happening. As I told you, let me tell you. For example, this Horn of Africa Gateway Road.
Yes.
The 750 to 1,000 kilometers, whatever it is. Massive. It is going to change lives.
Yep.
Fact. Because, all of a sudden now it becomes cheaper to live in those parts. And most of these professionals will go back to those areas. And you'll see quite a bit. Same thing with the power grid.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that His Excellency the President has already intimated that both Mandera and Wajir will be connected to the grid within a year or two. And I know it will be done because, I'm also aware of the lower level discussions that are happening on the same.
Okay.
And so forth, devolution priorities a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
We need to, and then of course, the biggest challenge we have, let me put it this way, the biggest challenge is illiteracy. Illiteracy creates a situation where you don't elect a leadership based on merit. Okay? You might do it based on handouts because you're already struggling and so forth. Or you may do it because of clan, or you may do it because of whatever, but not because of merit. Then what happens is a perpetual mediocrity.
A little, yeah,
Yes.
a perpetual cycle. The ICT, what would I call it? Roadmap, How do we also connect northern Kenya essentially to the digital landscape of this silicon savannah we call Kenya?
It is happening. In fact, I can say maybe 80%, 70% today are connected through Safaricom or, a mobile, service provider.
Yeah.
Which has both data and voice, right? There's proliferation. For example, this Horn of Africa, NEDI project has also a fiber component, goes all the way, which now connects schools, and having been part of the journey of internet access in this country from the beginning, and being in that space myself, I can tell you it is happening. The only question is, what are the value added services you can add on top of it that can make a difference in people's lives, create employment, give access. And by the way, let me tell you, with the Silicon Savannah or the interconnectivity of the global system, you can create AI engineers in Ramu or Mandera or anywhere else.
True.
You don't have to be anywhere, It's just what it is today.
Yeah.
Right? So the question is opportunity. Right? It is not anything other than opportunity. If you have opportunity, then everybody can prosper. How do you create those opportunities? Of course, some aspects are based on cultural and, other, but majority of it is government needs to focus on those areas. Okay. And the internet is coming along pretty good.
Do you think clan politics is also something that needs to go in your community?
Education.
Education will eradicate clan politics.
Absolutely.
Has education eliminated tribal politics when you look at it countrywide?
Good question. Our politics is a bit too toxic to begin with, and everybody agrees with that. This is, part of the biggest undoing, the so-called democracy. If you ask me today, Northern Kenya, I will have appointed governors myself, not elected
Appointed?
them. Yes.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
Okay.
Because the competition is so cutthroat that it is actually more harmful than helpful. Of course, I am also considerate and mindful of our past, where we were ruled by a DC with ultimate powers to do anything. So taking away the democracy part of it also has its consequences.
Yeah.
But in terms of managing resources, in terms of the clan politics, that is so, cutthroat, I would have said, let's reduce the amount of, So I think to a certain extent, in certain areas, you may have a little bit here and there. But I agree, there is a problem. It's actually almost, I know that you've raised it, I see where there's a problem.
It's a big one. There are some people who actually argue that the negotiating democracy of clans is actually appointing leaders.
Yeah.
Because the wazirs will sit and they look at Ugas. Ugas is from which clan? All right, you clan, what are your numbers? You're big. So we have supported Ugas. And now you can go and talk to this other clan we are friends with.
And form coalitions.
And form coalitions. Or Ugas is married from this other clan, so you can go to that clan as well and tell them, you know what, I have your daughter. So we form coalitions. And that actually is what ends up leading into the election, so to speak, of leaders. But
I agree.
It's a nomination, it's an appointing process.
But let me, the reason that forces situations like that is that the animosity and the rift and conflict that arise from competitive politics is so bad, divides communities, divides leadership. So it is better, it is actually done on the table.
Okay.
So for me...
So formalize it.
Formalize, I'm just saying, the same way I'm telling you appoint somebody.
Yes.
Who appoints is another question, right?
Yeah.
Is there a competitive... The only thing is the
authority.
quality of the person, right?
Yes.
That's the only question.
Yeah.
For me, the cutthroat nature of politics today will not create harmony, right?
Yes.
It will actually create conflict and rift in the fabric of society and divide even neighbors, divide family, divide everybody.
Right.
And instead of that happening, if we sit around the table, call some wazirs, and they tell us, hey, this time we see Mariam to be the one to lead, we will, why not? In my view, is Mariam capable of leading? That's the big question. That is the big question. Other than that, the how, to me, it's just a nomination process. By the way, let me tell you, you could as well do the same thing anywhere in Kenya.
With a political party.
With a political party.
As opposed to a clan.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah. So there's nothing strange there.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to end it there. Thank you very much, Ugas Mohamed, the chairperson of the Capital Markets Authority, talking to us about, drought and what we are seeing in the country. How are we getting here, how we get out of it, and how we make sure that we don't get back to this kind of level where millions of Kenyans face acute food shortage. It's a situation that had been predicted by everybody. It was coming. Yeah. And then after this, we're going to have some serious flooding as well that will affect livestock and people. Again, it's coming. Yes. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And come back for another conversation on the capital markets.
Yes.
You see, this show was so small, it's so short. It's crazy. It's too long, but yet too short.
Yeah, yet too short.
Yeah.
Our next conversation is going to be with the governor of Nairobi City County, and that is Senator of Nairobi City County, that's Edwin Sifuna, who is very many things. Pia kiranja wa walio wachache katika bunge la seneti na kwa anasemanga kwa nini? Kwa baraka zenu na za Mwenyezi Mungu. Pia mimi bado ndio katibu mkuu wa chama cha ODM. Watu wakapo wengi nasema sisi ndio Sifuna. Ni sawa Sifuna, ngojani kidogo. Let's take a break. We'll come back shortly.